Hello everybody, this is take 3 of this video. Take 1 I tried to use a script, and it turns out I don't like scripts. Take 2, um, the microphone had been muted, and I was recording for a good solid, almost 40 minutes. And I didn't notice that the mic was muted until 40 minutes in, which is basically the audio version of forgetting the lens cap on your camera. Yeah. God fucking damn it. So this is take 3. Hopefully it'll have less yawning, but I feel like I can probably concentrate a couple of my ideas a little bit better now that I've had time to rehearse them. And I literally almost started this off again with the fucking microphone muted. So yeah, we're already off to a great start. So, um, I'm going to talk about my overall experience with um, Modern Warfare 2 2022's multiplayer, but my general takeaway is I mostly enjoyed my time playing this game. I basically I dedicated my time playing this game to unlocking all of the Orion camos for pretty much every weapon, and I've mostly done that except for the last two weapons, which are secondary melee weapons, which I don't think anybody's gonna fucking care if I don't have those. I mean, I kind of care in the back of my head, and I'm not gonna stop pursuing until I've definitely gotten those. But for now, I can safely say that I have Orion camo on every weapon in Modern Warfare 2 2022's multiplayer, which makes me a fucking Call of Duty god. That being said, though, I will say that my time with the game, I've generally had a good time with it. Um, Despite the fact that most of that time has been spent yelling and cussing and swearing and calling and using every fucking slur known to humanity, and basically generally blaming everybody but myself for my own lack of skill. So, beside all that, I've been having fun generally. I This is going to be my last Call of Duty ever, and I wanted to make sure that my last Call of Duty ever was going to at least be spent um, wisely, achieving something I have not done before in another Call of Duty game, and that's essentially maxing out my weapons for the most part. I'm Obviously I'm probably leaving out a couple of like completionist challenges and stuff like that, but you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. It is what it is. I can't be perfect, and I don't want to be perfect. I just want my guns to look like the warp from Warhammer 40k. So, that out of the way, I'm now going to probably get into the more nitty gritty of my thoughts on um, the the multiplayer in this game, because while I enjoyed this multiplayer, I do see some glaring issues and some positives, and I wanted to highlight them both. So, that out of the way, I'm first going to start with talking about the maps. So, the maps in Modern Warfare 2 2022 suck. um, that's my general overall thought, but I'll get more into detail. So, the maps in Modern Warfare 2 2022, they lack, I think they lack a focus in design that we've seen in previous Call of Duty games. In previous Call of Duty games, they try to do almost like an arena system, but not exactly arena. They try to make the maps feel like somewhat like realistic locations, barring the sci-fi Call of Duty games where they put you in like government labs and bullshit like that. That's besides the point. Most of the maps they try to like set up like a realistic type of location and um, design like the map around that. Um, and Modern Warfare 2 2022 maps are kind of no exception to that, but the problem is the maps are like way too open. And what I mean by this is they're not big empty spaces. The maps are too uh basically it's like this. You'll have like a map like the you have a map like the Mexican Villa place. I'll put the name of it up of it here. But it's got like tons of doors in it, tons of windows, and tons of different places where the players can like climb up and stuff like that. And it basically just ruins the flow of a map. Now, to be clear real quick, Infinity Ward maps are not generally known for their flow. That would be like more like Triarch style with their 3-lane system. But Infinity Ward maps at least would be designed in such a way where you could predict player movements to a certain degree. Like a perfect example of this is a map that has been in pretty much every other Infinity Ward game, which is Shipment. Shipment is to make things to oversimplify the map. Shipment is 6 lanes of traffic that intersect each other. 3 of them are parallel, running north to south, and 3 of them are parallel, running east to west. And in between the paths, we have these 4 stacks of shipping containers. And then at the butt end of each path, there's also another set of shipping containers stacked on top of each other. And what this creates is this basically an extremely simple map, but a very effective at doing what it's meant to do, which is create a flow of where the players are traveling and stuff like that. And yeah, they have like a couple of like dead end containers and stuff like that for like maybe a player could hide in it for a couple of seconds to reload their weapon, or go prone and try to camp in it for the duration of the map. Good luck with that, sucker. But overall, the design of Shipment is to basically have paths that you, the player, can use to not just travel through, but predict where a enemy player might be traveling from. And you don't get that in pretty much any of the new Modern Warfare 2022 maps. The maps have like almost way too many corridors, way too many windows, way too many doors. The Mexican what is it called? Favela, like the cartel house, is like a good example of having way too many fucking doors. And I don't just mean doorways, I mean literal doors. The map has too many fucking doors. I don't like the doors to begin with, to be frank. I prefer the maps to have no doors in the doorway, so that way it's just an open shot for the player to run through. Ground War, I don't mind the doors on. I think they're great for Ground War, because Ground War, it's more of like, you are meant to take points and shoot at each other from long distances and stuff like that, so it kind of plays more into what you're looking for out of that gameplay. Regular TDM, or free-for-all, or anything like that, the doorways are fucking stupid, and all they do is to serve as a annoying little spot for a player to hide behind while they're camping. And I'm not going to dog on campers too much, because one, I dedicated my playstyle around hunting down and destroying campers, but two, I've also I have a nuanced opinion on camping, which is that one, everybody is allowed to play the game the way they want to play it, and two, I'm not super against camping as long as, or I don't mind camping as long as they're like, you're sitting in a fucking second story building with a window that sees across the map. I'm okay with that shit. It's fun. It gives it's almost like a micro objective for players to do during a TDM match. What I can't stand is motherfuckers who will find like a corridor with 2 doorways in it, and they'll sit in the fucking corner and wait for someone to run through and shoot them and then change which corner they're sitting in. I cannot fucking stand that shit. That is such a dog shit play style. It's not even like a good play style. Like, you don't actually get good at playing the game when you do that. So it's just all it does is to serve as this like frustration for pretty much everyone else playing the game. That being said, that isn't as much of an issue if your doorways and stuff are always open and for the players to just run through, essentially, and see through. When you have these stupid doors and shit that can be manipulated, it kind of adds to the problem. And it's not just that kind of stuff. It's also um, it is also the mantling system. Now, I think in 2019 they hit the sweet spot on the mantling. There was plenty of spots where the player could climb up over and climb and maneuver to get around the map, but there wasn't like too much going on with that. Like, there was just enough. In this game, there's like kind of too much. Like, there's just tons of spots where the players are able to just kind of maneuver around the map in weird ways. An example that I can think of right now is the fish hatchery. So the fish hatchery, it's these like 2 warehouses, and then like between them and next to them are these like big fish tanks, like circular fish tanks, and it's kind of like stupid. So like you can only climb up on the roof of one of the warehouses, and then on the opposite side of the map you can climb up on top of the fish tanks, but that's the only counter you have to shooting at the rooftop of the warehouse. So you basically have this like one rooftop where everybody is like jumping up on so they can snipe at each other from across the map, and it's just kind of stupid because it makes the map feel lopsided. One side of the map feels like it's got a lot of verticality to it and a lot of like depth, while the other side it's kind of like not as much verticality. There's like the warehouse on the other side, and it feels like uh, unnecessary, like as if the building shouldn't even be there. So the way I would personally fix that is I would make it so you couldn't mantle over the fish tanks, and you couldn't climb up on top of the um, warehouse. I feel like some of the verticality in a lot of these maps can be cut down a tiny bit. Not all of it. Some of it's good. Like I said, I think they hit that sweet spot with 2019 where they had just enough verticality everywhere to just to be justified. And 2019 also wisely brought back a bunch of older Call of Duty maps and updated them so they could work well with these newer systems. The same can't be said for the maps in this game. There's just too much. And it's ironic too that they have like tons of like verticality and stuff like that for you to like work with, because they also at the same time they nerfed the movement system in this game. I'll get more into that later. Actually, no, I'll talk about it now because I'm frankly not going to get hung up on the movement system. But basically, in 2019's Call of Duty game, actually I should probably just say in 2021's Call of Duty game, they nerfed the sliding, so you can't slide cancel, and you can't shoot a gun while sliding until like the very end of it. Which, to be clear, I'm not butthurt that those things are necessarily gone, because I frankly find some of the movement stuff to be kind of annoying. But then they did stuff like they got rid of reload canceling, so instead it's more like Rainbow Six, where when you are reloading a weapon, it's like, oh, your guy pulled out the magazine, and then you melee bashed so you can cancel the reload, and then the animation will pick up from where it left off on. That stuff's cool in the campaign. It's not cool in a multiplayer game where players are constantly rushing at you. It's kind of frustrating, to be frank. So they nerfed the movement in this game and all that. so to slow the players down, but then simultaneously they opened up the maps a little bit more than they did before, and it's kind of like poop. I literally don't know how else to describe it. It's like there's too many angles for players to shoot you from. The flow of the maps are even broken because of the way they're set up. The older games, you can like again, you could predict player movement and determine, oh, they're going to be coming from this way. Whereas in this game, they could come from literally anywhere, and as a result, you're just constantly being shot in the back. I think I've been shot more in the back than I have been face to face in this game. Um, and that might also have to do with spawning. So the spawns in this game are absolutely atrocious. Especially if the balance of the team isn't good. Like if you have one team that's better than the other team's gonna basically be everywhere at the map at once, and the game doesn't know how to handle this, so it will spawn you in just like the dumbest places. Like it'll literally, I can literally think of a couple of times where I was consistently spawning within I like line of sight of enemy players, and if not line of sight, pretty close to being in their line of sight. So it's kind of like it's bad on both ends because you can have like you can be the guy who keeps spawning and you keep getting shot from behind as you're spawning, or you could be on the flip side of that. You could be like doing really good, but then an enemy respawns behind you and then kills you and takes away your kill streak, and you can't do anything to counter that. Like, there's no good gameplay mechanic that can. And that's not even a skill issue. You're literally having an enemy spawn behind you and fucking kill you and take your kill streak away. Like, there's no way you can counter that. That's not like fair for the player. So the spawning is like dog shit in this. To be frank, I don't know how you would fix it because I think the players kind of outrun what Call of Duty is able to handle, to be frank. Um, I don't think you can do anything to actually legitimately fix that spawning. Um, it's definitely worse than it used to be in the older games, but I don't recall the older games being so bad with, like, the way you spawn into maps and stuff. So, all in all, the maps are dog shit in this game. Especially that fucking bridge map. Um, I call it the bridge map. It's a bridge that goes over a border crossing between the U.S. and Mexico. Um, so here's how the map is dog shit. Okay, the map, the map is a micro version of a larger map that they use for ground war or invasion. I think it's invasion. I don't think they actually have a ground war map there. I could be mistaken about that. But regardless, they have this like ground war map with this bridge, and the bridge is part of that map, and it serves as and its purpose in that map is to basically be like a highway for like tanks and shit to get from one side of the map to the other quicker, as opposed to if you go under the map under the bridge, there's like a couple of neighborhoods and like a river and stuff like that, which could slow your progress. So the purpose of the bridge in the bigger map is to basically be a highway. But in but and this is the stupid part. So they do this thing now where they'll make big maps and then they'll take chunks of the bigger maps to make smaller maps. And I kind of I kind of understand it. It's like a time saver, but holy hell is it fucking annoying when they decided they looked at this border crossing map and they're like, uh, we're gonna take literally the worst part of this map and make it an entire map. And it's a bridge full of fucking cars. And you know what that means? As soon as you spawn, grenades are flying everywhere and everything's fucking blowing up around you. It is so fucking annoying, and there's no good way to get across the get it because there's no good way to get across the map because the primary part of the map is a bridge full of cars. Then they have a civilian walkway, and then next to the walkway they have like a truckway, like for big 18 wheelers and shit. And none of those are good for getting across the map. They're all like way too open, and it's narrow, and it basically boils down to um which team can flip the spawn, because if you can flip the spawn, it can fuck everybody up. No side on this game, in this particular map, has, like, the advantage, really. Like, both sides are pretty evenly matched, but flipping the spawn, I shouldn't have said flip the spawn. Who can get into the enemy spawn? Because it takes a work of God to flip the spawns on this map. I I can consistently, if I can get to the back of the map in the enemy spawn, you can fuck up the enemies before, like, as they're spawning, and basically drive them insane. And then the only time the spawn will flip is if a couple of your buddies end up on the same side of the map as you. So it's stupid hard to flip the spawns, and it's really frustrating. There's no, like, one-sidedness to the map, but it's dumb. The map is so frustrating that you can literally look off the side of the bridge and see a better multiplayer map right next to it. Like, there's literally a neighborhood full of houses, and it's like, that would have been a better fucking multiplayer map. Why would you not use that? No, we're gonna use the stupid fucking bridge. Alright, I'm done talking about maps. I'm also done talking about the combat arenas that this game takes place in. Only some people will understand that joke. So, now I'm going to talk about gunplay. And the short end of it is I'm caveman who is big gun nut. I love firearms. I love guns. They're really cool from almost every aspect of them, from the, like, mechanical aspects to the historical significance of firearms. And then even just shooting guns is cool. So I love guns. This game's got a bunch of them, and that makes me pretty happy. Not as happy as 2019. I'll get into that in a little bit, but the overall general impressions of the guns is I'm satisfied with what we have on offer. I think that the people who worked on the guns in this game put in a lot of effort and did a really good job, especially since a lot of the guns look and feel like the real life counterparts probably would anyway. And they're actually, like, the people who worked on this stuff do demonstrate that they have some knowledge of, like, real world guns. Like, I'm one of those fucking assholes who plays the game, and I see, like, the gun not working the way it's supposed to in real life, and I, like, have to point it out to somebody because it frustrates me. And so, that stuff is sort of minimalized when I'm playing this. Sorta. There's a couple of examples maybe I'll bring up, but in general, the guns in this game are really good, for the most part. I have a couple of qualms with what they have on offer, and I'll get more into that in a second. But first, the thing I think I want to get into first is how the weapon progression works in this game. So, how do I break this down? So, they tried to minimize the amount of grindiness you get in this game from gun to gun, and I applaud these efforts because they're actually mostly appreciated, but I do feel like it's like they took one step forward from what we had on offer in 2019, and then they took a step back at the same time, almost 2 steps back. So, in 2019, they had a bunch of fucking guns, and then to unlock all the attachments for all those guns, you'd have to level these things up, like, 70, 80 times sometimes. And it's mainly because of the amount of, like, red dot sights they put in these games. Like, they have a stupid amount of weapon sights in these games that you have to go through. So, it's like, you're kind of just, like, in this, like, realm of constantly grinding your guns. And this is before you got to, like, camos, which, to be clear and fair to 2019 camos in that game, similar situation. You had to, like, re-grind for the same camos for every gun, but to be fair, I think like the camo categories were unlocked at relatively low levels. In this game, they cut that shit down basically in half, and instead you'll have like one gun with like, let's say like think of like an ACOG scope, like a pretty standard ACOG scope, and only one gun in the one or maybe two of the guns in the entire game have that ACOG scope to unlock. But when you unlock it for that gun, you can use it on all of the guns, pretty much all of them anyway. And this holds true for pretty much every attachment in the game. And what this did was it would cut down on grinding time by a lot, because it's like I prefer I like the AUG, but I prefer this particular sight on the AUG. But I have to level up to level 70 to get it. It's like, no, you don't have to do that shit. Now you can just level it up, and once you unlock the sights category, whether that be literally you unlock sights category, or if you unlock the particular gun sight that was available for that gun, all of the sights are available to you. So, on one hand, this is really cool because it cuts down on the grindiness, and it's while still allowing you to have the variety to choose from, because everybody might have their own like personal like what they like on the gun and stuff like that. But the problem comes in with the my problem with it was the order in which you unlock the attachments is kind of stupid and goofy for a lot of the guns. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So, and this also kind of can limit what you can use on some guns. So, perfect example is the FS Hurricane. Um, so, if you don't unlock suppressors on other SMGs before you unlock them for the SF Hurricane, the SF Hurricane actually can't use suppressors until you unlock its last barrel. And the last barrel is an internally silenced barrel. So, if you are so this isn't a problem later in the game, but this is a problem when you first start the game. When you first start the game, you'll find a lot of attachments and stuff are kind of limited because you can only unlock them in certain orders and stuff like that. This is also tied to how the guns progression unlocks. So in 2019 they had this really cool thing where you could swap certain attachments and make one gun into a different version of the same gun. Best example of this was the AUG. So, in 2019, the AUG was an SMG, a 9mm variant of the AUG. But then, they're like, you could put 5.56 in this, and turn it into the AUG assault rifle, or a short-barreled AUG, which is like a carbine. This is really fucking cool, because it's like, you kind of have secret guns in the game that you didn't have before, and it makes almost a bigger variety of what you had before. In 2019, they wanted to play off this by having what's called weapon families, and what this boils down to is like, okay, you have your basic M4, and then there's other weapons though that use the same design principles and platform that the M4 does. For instance, there's the M16, which technically the M16 came the M16 came before the M4, but for the sake of basically not making the players commit suicide, they made damn well sure the M16 was the last one you can unlock in the M4 tree. But there's also the FS Hurricane, which is like a submachine gun variant of the M4. And I think it's kind of the worst version they could pick of a submachine gun variant. They could have just went like for a regular 9mm M4 or AR-15 variant, but they instead went with this like very niche, not well known attachment you can get for an M4, which basically it can convert your M4 into a makeshift U not UMP5 P50 into a P50 essentially. Um, Neat. It's neat because it's like it's tied to like real life gun culture and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's kind of like one of those things. Mainly because it kind of like the upper, and this is not the real. I'm not talking about the real life version of the game of the upper. I'm not talking about the real life version of the AFS Hurricane. I'm talking about the in-game version of the FS Hurricane. But the in-game version of the FS Hurricane limits like a lot of the attachments you can get on it, especially scopes. Um, and that could have been remedied if they just used like a regular M9 or M4 with a 9mm conversion. Uh, so they also did one for. They had an M4 LMG variant. I can't remember what it's called. I'll probably show. You'll probably see an image of it up on the screen. But basically, it's an M4 with like a belt-fed upper, which again, this also exists in real life, and it's kind of neat that they included it. Um, and then after that, they have the M16, and was there something else? Oh, there was also the FTAC Recon, which is like a uh, M4 battle rifle. I think they put it in the battle rifle category. It's and it's a neat gun, but it's kind of like, why didn't you just do this instead? But whatever. I'm not gonna keep. Well, they did do this instead later on in a DLC, but for now, for the sake of this conversation, why didn't they do this earlier on? I don't know. But anyway, so to unlock them, basically the way it works is you have to complete certain challenge with the one version of the gun in the weapon family. You start off with the M4, you complete certain challenge, like you reach level 16 with it, you unlock the FS Hurricane and the LMG versions of the gun, and then after you get to level 16 on the FS Hurricane or the LMG, you unlock the next versions of the gun. And they do this for a bunch of the guns in the game. They do this with the AK-47, which has its kind of its own redundancies built into it. They do it with the H&K guns, Heckler Coach. I will not call them Lockman because that's fucking stupid. And then they do it with the Scar, and then they did it with like one of the sniper rifles, and that's kind of it, sorta. They did it with the Glock too, which was that one was particularly stupid because it's like you could have just had like you could have did what you did in 2019 where you can get an auto Glock attachment, but instead they're like, here's normal Glock, here's automatic Glock. Why? I don't know. Uh, they had a couple of, and then like they had a bunch of guns that don't actually have that weapon family stuff going on, which I'm not too upset about because the weapon family thing is frustrating a little bit because it builds upon the issues I had with it builds upon the issues you will have with the weapon progression. Certain attachments, again, are connected to certain guns. Well, guess what? If there's a particular attachment you want or need or like, then you'll have to unlock that particular gun, which means you'll have to use other guns you might not even want to really use, per se. Maybe you don't want to use the FS Hurricane to unlock the FTAC Recon, actually, to be clear, I think that's the other way around in the weapon tree. Maybe you don't want to use the H&K LMG to unlock the H&K marksman rifle or battle rifle. Maybe you don't want to do that, but you kind of have to. The H&K SMG, the Lockman SMG, is literally like the last one in its progression for its tree, and it's like, and I know for a fact there's a contingency of people who probably didn't want to use the other ones just to get that fucking that one particular gun. Now, the one thing I do kind of like about it, a tiny bit, admittedly, is that it forced players to experiment with other weapons before they can use the ones they wanted to use. Granted, you kind of get that already with the more traditional Call of Duty weapon progression, but this one kind of added on to it a tiny bit, so it, for a time anyway, prevented that sterile, like, everybody uses the same 3 or 4 meta guns for a little while anyway. Eventually it boiled into that, everybody using the same 4 guns because they're the meta weapon, but, I digress. Anyway, point is, the weapon progression is slightly a hindrance to it a tiny bit. It's kind of annoying, frankly. I think they would have been better if they would have stuck with, like, the 2019 formula in regards to you could build secret guns. I think that would have been better, frankly, than doing this whole weapons family thing, because the weapons family thing also cuts down on weapon variety a bunch. Like, yeah, there's an M4 in the game, but there's also like 6 other M4s. There's and then this like problem got exacerbated when they added in the SIG M13 C, I think it was, or B. I can't remember which one it was. And then later on, they added in another SIG M13, but it was like the B or C variant of it. I can't remember, but it's basically the same as the normal assault rifle, but it's like got a folding stock and a shorter barrel by default. It also uses 300 blackout, which it's like you could have just made an ammo attachment. Like you could have just said you could, like, and they don't, and it's not like they don't do this. The what's it called? I can't remember the name of the gun, but it's this gun that uses it's like it uses like a 5.56 ammo. It kind of reminds me of like a I can't remember the Bren 2, I think it's called. But basically you can run, it runs like 5.56 normally, but if you switch it to 300 blackout, the gun shoots faster. And they could have very easily done this with the M13. They could have very easily had like an ammo variant attachment instead. Desert Eagle. They have 2 different Desert Eagles in this game. They have a regular one, and then they have a full auto one. I don't know why they wouldn't just add in a full auto attachment retroactively, because in their defense, the full auto Desert Eagle is not in the game by default. They added that in with DLC. There's a bunch of them. There's just a whole lot of different like times where like they could have just used their 2019 system, but instead they decided, hey, you know what? Why don't we just add in a whole other gun, and it's basically the same as the other ones. It doesn't make any sense, really. It cuts down on variety a tiny bit. Like, something I love about Modern Warfare 2019 is there's a ton of variety of the guns in that game. In this game, I can think of, like, there are a bunch of guns, but it's not actually that many guns. It's kind of like the same gun several times over, which is a shame, kind of. Frankly, it's kind of like, oh, you have less now. It also made like grinding for the camo in this game, like oh wait, I'll actually even talk about the camo challenge in a second. But when I say talking for camo, I mean like my entire overall journey for getting Orion. It made it a pain in the ass because I wanted to progress weapon class by weapon class, but in order to do that, I first had to jump around weapon classes to unlock other guns and stuff. So, it's kind of annoying in that regard. That being said, though, overall, I like the fact that they were able to cut the grinding in half. I just think that they went too far then by adding the weapon family system in. And this grinding, and by the way, this whole like you unlock it for one gun, you get it for all the gun supplies to the camo too. And this might have been more controversial for more experienced Call of Duty players. Mainly in that traditionally in a Call of Duty game, you have to unlock all of the camos individually for every individual weapon, whereas in this game you can unlock the specific like maybe there's like a specific woodland camo you like. You unlock it for the one gun that has the camo challenge, and it unlocks it for all of the guns. So that might for some people be a downgrade compared to the normal camo challenge. I particularly was okay with it because it made the completing the ammo challenges not as grindy. And believe me, the fucking ammo or camo challenges are grindy as fuck, especially in this game. And a big part of that has to do with how they chose the camo grinding challenges for whatever gun. It made zero sense for a lot of the guns. So, perfect example, the Desert Eagle. So, they at one point they fucked up on the Desert Eagle's camo challenge, and one of the camo challenges it was get mounted kills. You had to get like 40 mounted kills with a pistol. Who the fuck wants to sit there and mount on a wall with a fucking pistol? Like, you know how fucking the mounting in this game in particular is pretty bad, and I'll get more into that later, but mounting with a pistol is fucking stupid. And to make matters worse, they at one point they accidentally deleted the camo challenge and replaced it with a different camo challenge, which made no sense. They replaced it with a camo challenge that said you had to get kills with a different gun entirely in order to get that particular camo for the Desert Eagle. And this wasn't at launch either. I distinctly remember I got the gold camo for the Desert Eagle relatively early in the game's cycle, and then a friend of mine started playing the game after me, and then he was like, he loves the Desert Eagle, so he's like grinding the Desert Eagle to get camos, and he looked at the camo challenge and noticed you needed to use the TAC V and get like 15 kills with it or something like that. And it made no fucking sense. It was weird. It was super bizarre. That it came out of fucking nowhere. Even I was confused. And I knew for a fact you had to do mounting challenges. And sure enough, like a week later, they do an update, and it replaces the challenge with the original challenge, like 15 mounted kills with the Desert Eagle. It made no fucking sense. It was stupid. And it's not just that gun, it's a lot of guns. There's like sniper rifle. There's a sniper rifle where they want you to get hip fire kills. Like, don't get me wrong, like I get it, there's like a crowd of people out there who enjoy like doing like trick shots and stuff. Maybe not as much as they used to, but I don't want to do that to grind the camo for a sniper rifle. There was like a fucking LMG with like a point blank kills. So yeah, you have to like run up to the enemies with a fucking LMG. Or from behind kills with an LMG even. It's like, LMG is not like a mobile gun. That's a gun you kind of like hang out in an area with and, you know, hold your ground. It's not a fucking flank the enemy type of weapon. Not that you can't make it work like that, but it goddamn like Infinity Ward. I guess if you want me to move a mountain, I'll do it, but it ain't gonna be fun. In SMG, some of the SMGs had the same sort of problem to them where they have like weird challenges. The other issue that I could see with the camo challenges was the completionist challenges themselves. Particularly, so they all kind of have their own individual issues, kind of. So I'll start from the gold one. The gold one was not a bad challenge. It's like get like 20 kill streaks or something like that, which means kill 3 enemies without dying. Okay, but they don't explain that very well. The way they word it is get 3 kills 20 times without dying, or something like that. And it makes it sound like you have to get like, it sounds like you have to get like a fucking 20-man kill streak without dying to get the gold challenge. The wording on it's just kind of weird. Um, so in the challenge itself, it's not bad and not impossible. Fuck me, is it annoying for some of the guns, because they use that same exact challenge on all of the guns, and some of these guns are not, they're not fun. There's a couple of bad apples in there, and I'll one in particular that's been holding me up for a while now, and I'll definitely talk about that. Um, but the camo challenge is doesn't change from gun to gun. Not impossible by any means. One of the more frustrating grindy ones, especially with like some of the issues I was talking about earlier, with like enemies spawning behind you and stuff like that. Um, the platinum one was by far the worst challenge in the game, mainly because it doesn't feel like the range is consistent in this game. Like, it's kind of hard to gauge how far away enough is a long shot in this game, and some of the maps don't lend themselves to long shots, particularly for sniper rifles or marksman rifles. Some of the maps, they feel like they were just too small to be doing the challenges on. Granted, I did complete most of, if not almost all of, the camo challenges playing regular TDM, but I do recall for the intervention, and a couple of the other sniper rifles for long shot kills, I had to jump into ground war to to do. So, there definitely could have been some improvement in that regard, a tiny bit. Being able to gauge the distance or of like how far an enemy is or something like that would have definitely helped. And it also just didn't feel like a lot of the distances were consistent to begin with. Like, sometimes it'd feel like you shoot one enemy at a certain distance and you get the long shot kill, and then you'd shoot the enemy at probably the same distance, maybe a couple feet less or closer, and you wouldn't get it. So that shit was kind of annoying. And then the polyatomic camo is sort of a joke, almost. It's like, get 25 headshots, and headshots are not that difficult most of the time. Some of the guns are kind of frustrating to get headshots with, but for the most part, that it's kind of like they were just telling you to play the game to complete the challenge. So yeah, camo challenges can kind of vary in quality for sure. I did them all. Was it worth it? Probably not. But I digress. I think the next thing I want to talk about, not related to the guns, is kind of like perk stuff and all that. So, I'll start with kill streaks. I'm not a fan of kill streaks. They feel like a kill button, and I know that's kind of their intent, but they're a frustrating kill button. Like, it's really, really annoying when shit's just constantly blowing up and making your screen shake, and you're kind of like dying constantly to like stupid like fucking attack helicopters and shit like that. My particular gripe is the um I just don't really have a particular one. They just all kind of like annoy me. The mortar strike goes on for way too long. It's like it shoots 3 barrages of mortars, but the timing between them is so fucking off and weird. So it goes on for like almost way too long. Um, uh, in regular TDM it's useless, but the way people use it is dirty as fuck, and that is they call it on like a control point, like say during capture the flag or whatever it's called. Um, not hard point. I can't remember what it's called. It's basically like the battle. It's like ground war but small. Um, it's also let's see. The attack helicopter's a bullshit annoying kill streak because there's no like cooldown for the weapons or whatever, so the person controlling it basically can lay in on enemies or to enemy players as they're spawning. It's a bullshit fucking kill streak, and the only saving grace is that it's pretty easy to kill it if you shoot it down with an LMG. Um, Similar kind of for the Harrier or whatever it's called. Precision airstrike's not that bad. It's kind of like a one and done deal. Sentry turrets bullshit. It's always been bullshit. I've never liked sentry turrets. To me, the kill streak should be more like support stuff, like the UAV, advanced UAV, that kind of stuff. I like counter UAV. I like that stuff because it's not like a instant kill button you turn on and the enemies are just dead. They're kind of they're more like just like passive like buffs in a way that aid you the player, and I think that's what they frankly all the kill streaks should be for the most part. They shouldn't be something you can call down on an objective and prevent enemy players from being able to reach it. Like, and I don't mean that in a way. And I don't mean that in a way like, oh, the enemy player should just be able to walk on the objective. And I just mean like, in a way, it should be something that a player can effectively disable without needing to shoot 7 fucking RPG rockets at. Um, Grenades are super fucking annoying in this game, especially like pretty much all the grenades. Like the grenade play, and this isn't even like the developer's fault. This is just like players being players, frankly. So this complaint's more of a nitpick. But grenades are so fucking annoying in this game. Shipment particularly, you will not be flashbanged on shipment. You will always be flashbanged on shipment. Always. There's never a point in which you're not being hit by a flashbang or grenade. Um, the annoying thing with the grenades that actually developers could fix is the grenade indicator is not very good at judging the distance of how close or far a fucking grenade is. Like sometimes, like in the other Call of Duties, you can like if the grenade was red, that meant like you're right on top of it and you definitely were gonna die. And then like if it was white, it meant that you were gonna take damage but possibly live from it. In this game, it's always red, so you can't tell if it's close or far away. Um, and uh, Semtexes particularly are kind of annoying in this game. Uh, they're just super popular with people, and that's the only reason why I think they're annoying. I don't actually have like a legitimate like this could be fixed sort of thing. Like no, this is just straight up uh Semtexes are annoying. But doing something to the indicator that could make it like easier for a player to like determine like how much danger they're in would be helpful. I know generally speaking, if you see the grenade indicator, you're supposed to run, but sometimes like frankly, it's easier. Uh, it's easier to like take a couple steps back than it is to fucking try to turn around and sprint away from the damn thing. Um, so that's something that personally I feel like they can fix. The scope glint, I fucking hate it. I think it needs to go for the most part. I To me, the scope glint should just be a quick glint and then it's gone, and then glint and then it's gone. It should not be a constant. Like when you aim down your sight, it should not be like you're like shining a flashlight because it it's frankly stupid because it makes it harder for you to like just chill and snipe across a map when your scope is like glinting and giving away your position the whole time. Uh, let's see. Is there anything else really I need to talk about with this? Probably not, frankly. I think I frankly hit almost all the nails on the head. I guess like a couple of notes before I end this. This is definitely going to be my last Call of Duty, and it's for multiple reasons, but I think my biggest reason that I will definitely say, without any shame, is that it's Call of Duty has gotten lazier and lazier. Older Call of Duty games used to get complaints all the time that they were samey and stuff like that. And generally speaking, yes, they were, but at least it felt like they cared about the product they were putting out. It felt like they trying to make a good, fun game, even if they were failing. Like Call of Duty Ghost, not a particularly fun multiplayer to play, but at least it felt like they were trying. This game does not feel like they try anymore, and I don't necessarily mean the developers aren't trying. I mean, it doesn't feel like Activision cares about trying to give the developers time to make a good, solid game that is fun for everybody to play. It feels like instead they're more concerned about churning out dog shit that it kind of functions when it comes out of the box. Uh, there's too many instances of they're adding in stuff afterwards with updates that usually come with the launch game. Like, I'm pretty sure when the game launched, you couldn't do like a showcase thing where you showed off your operators or your tags or your guns. Um, there's a bunch of shit like that, and I can go on about it, but frankly, it's kind of pointless. It's good to like talk about to criticize and all that stuff, but it's really frankly not gonna contribute anything if all I'm doing is complaining into the wind, because even if a developer saw this video, it's extremely unlikely that they would the it's extremely unlikely that Activision would actually like care enough to do anything about whatever kind of criticisms that I or any of the other players are putting up, because they frankly don't actually try to do anything. Uh, there was like it's like this like when around the time Diablo came out, the Call of Duty servers went down for a little bit, and then people were telling Activision, and then Activision on their Twitter said, just go play Diablo. It's like, no, you idiot. And the gross amount of like microtransactions that they shove in, and there's an army of other peons out there who can make these arguments better than I could with more time than I have. So, and I frankly don't feel like complaining about it, because what's the fucking point? Um, I will play devil's advocate a tiny bit on the microtransaction thing, saying that it is how they keep the lights on, and I completely understand that. I just feel like the way they implement this shit doesn't feel particularly good. Um, and some of it is especially schemy. Like, real quick, when before Modern Warfare 2 2022 came out, they were talking about weapon vaults. And the idea is like you have this weapon. They basically made it sound like when you got weapon blueprints in the game, the blueprint traditionally the blueprints would only work for they only work with specific attachments on the gun, and if you change the attachments, the blueprints would like not apply to the other attachments. The weapon vaults were meant to like the weapon vault was like, hey, yeah, no, like if you change your attachments, all the attachments have been customized to match this style. So no matter what you put on the gun, it works. And it's like they completely got rid of that. They did it for one gun, and then that's it. I'm not gonna keep complaining anymore. Can't believe this video is literally almost an hour now. Anyway, everybody, I'm gonna end it here. Take care. Peace.